The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, O Lord. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a large crowd gathered around him, and he stayed close to the sea. One of the synagogue officials, named Jairus, came forward. Seeing him, he fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with him, saying, "My daughter is at the point of death. Please come lay your hands on her, that she may get well and live." He went off with him, and a large crowd followed him. There was a woman afflicted with hemorrhages for 12 years. She had suffered greatly at the hands of many doctors and had spent all that she had. Yet she was not helped, but only grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. She said, "If I but touch his clothes, I shall be cured." Immediately her flow of blood dried up. She felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. Jesus, aware at once that power had gone out from him, turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who has touched my clothes?" But his disciples said to him, "You see how the crowd is pressing upon you, and yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked around to see who had done it. The woman, realizing what had happened to her, approached in fear and trembling. She fell down before Jesus and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has saved you. Go in peace and be cured of your affliction." While he was still speaking, people from the synagogue official's house arrived and said, "Your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher any longer?" Disregarding the message that was reported, Jesus said to the synagogue official, "Do not be afraid, just have faith." He did not allow anyone to accompany him inside except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they arrived at the house of the synagogue official, he caught sight of a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. So he went in and said to them, "Why this commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but asleep." And they ridiculed him. Then he put them all out. He took along the child's father and mother and those who were with him and entered the room where the child was. He took the child by the hand and said to her, "Talitha kum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." The girl, a child of 12, arose immediately and walked around. At that they were utterly astounded. He gave strict orders that no one should know this and said that she should be given something to eat. The Gospel of the Lord. Yeah, we're in that section of Mark's Gospel, I think, where it's quite clear that Mark is handing on to us the accounts of St. Peter, just the little kind of, eyewitness details. Like this great event happens, this little girl raised from the dead, and there's Jesus saying she should be given something to eat. It's like the most anticlimactic line in all of Scripture, right? There's nothing said. Just give her something to eat. And of course, there's other touches. Talitha kum, the fact that it stays in the original, it stays in the Aramaic, even though the Gospel is given to us in Greek and it's translated for us into English. But we keep that as well. It's those little touches that give us some sense of the fact that this is coming from Peter's account, Peter's recollection. But there's so much going on here, and of course, it's a long gospel, and we've all got places to be today, so I try to keep the commentary somewhat short. And I think also it's the kind. This account is the kind of story that we should be able to find our way into. So if we read it again. Where are we? Are we in the crowd? Are we Jairus? Are we the woman reaching out to touch Jesus? I mean, and I say that we might not even know who we are in the scene until we start reading it and we start seeing, okay, my heart is moving in this direction, that direction. Jesus has something to tell me here. Maybe more than that. Just as we're privy to two healing miracles in this passage. Maybe our hearts are being led by the true and living God to our own healing, and maybe beyond that to grow into Jesus himself, as we are Jesus. We are Jesus's body. We are Jesus. We're made to be Jesus. We are growing into the people who not relay, but who embody the healing love of God for others. And of course, that dominates the scene. What's interesting about the scene for us is that there are any number of, I think, competitors for dominance in the scene, and they're all trumped, right? So we have when Jesus is told about the girl who's dying, we might start to think of Jewish purity laws, where contact with a corpse would render someone unclean. So the prospect of Jesus going to a place and encountering someone, even someone who's half dead, that would render him unclean. So we have this kind of like on the horizon. Oh, he's going in that direction. This is dangerous. And whether it's dangerous according to religious sensibilities or according to public health, we're a bit concerned about where this scene is heading. Then a woman with this bleeding disorder comes to him and touches him. This should render him unclean, right? This is another one of those accounts that it puts us on edge. And yet what happens, we don't, and of course, what do we know about whether or not Jesus is going to be judged unclean? Jairus might be the one to judge him unclean, but look how he's not concerned about it. Why? Because his daughter's life is at stake. So that's already trumping the other concern, right? This is, as we make our way through the scene, it's like, how are these different loves being put in proper order, right? Love of God, love of neighbor as self. Love of God, love of those entrusted to my care, love of neighbor as self. Where are these purity laws? Where do they fit in? How do they order life? And do they need to be reordered? So, and then, of course, there are political concerns on the part of Jairus. He really doesn't want, I don't know that anybody, any synagogue official, and there were many of them around, many synagogues, but I don't know that any of them would have wanted Jesus in their town. He's too compelling. And if he's doing things that don't quite line up with what we think should be happening, especially as it goes to disregard of things so serious as purity laws, we don't want him around. We've got it, thank you very much. We're okay. But do they have it? No, they don't have it. They don't have things under control. Jairus doesn't have things under control. His daughter is dying. Okay, so what? So, to heck with the local political situation. He's going to throw himself at Jesus' feet because he knows that Jesus has what he wants, what he needs, what his girl needs, and so on and so forth, right? All the way through the story. We see also love overcoming even fear. Love overcoming, I don't know, what would you say, Jairus throws caution to the wind, right? What's happening? This exchange between Jesus and Jairus I always find very peculiar. When is reported to them that his daughter has died, Jesus says to him, "Do not be afraid, just have faith." They just said, "My daughter died." What are you talking, right? What are you talking about? But this is the exhortation. And it's not, and here, immediately prior to this, he says to the woman, "Your faith has saved you." Both times, think about the radical reorientation of the person, their heart, their hope, their life around Jesus. Because what is he saying? He's saying, have faith in me. Even if your daughter has died, have faith in me. That's scary. Right? That's even scarier than hey, let's go bury her. Have faith in me. What does this mean? Have faith in me that I have the power to do what I will to do here. And I'm going with you to raise your daughter. And of course, so much of this points to the resurrection, to Jesus' resurrection. So much of it is an embodiment of Jesus' own preaching, which is always about life from death. And that's what Jesus is doing. There's the language of rescue here is saturated. It's all in this scene. We have to think Jesus is rescuing us. That's what he's offering. We call it salvation. He's rescuing us. And the way that rescue can take hold is by faith. It's our trusting in Jesus. He has to be at the very center of everything. That's when we'll start to experience his rescue for ourselves and be set free to go on his rescue mission of the entire world.